intro. Welcome to Marriage with Joy, which is the most open discussion on the internet about the positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant aspects of living in harmony with matrimony. Marriage with Joy unabashedly discusses the most interesting questions raised by listeners. Our informed and informative panel addresses issues with thought, wit, and aplomb. Voted best of the web 2 years running. Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Remember, you're good-looking, so always looking for and finding the good. And if you found good in abundance because you've tuned in consciously and conscientiously to Marriage with Joy. Notice I didn't say marriage with joy. Marriage with Joy, because it is the most uplifting, positive, purposeful, powerful experience you could ever have. That's it. That's my opinion. And I'm married for 47 years, and it's my opinion. So you don't have to believe it. Matter of fact, if you don't, you want to argue with it, that's great. We love people who don't agree with us all the time. Of course, you should, but that's beside the point. So we're going to be talking today about one of the most touchy and touching issues dealing with marriage. And it has to do with this one, the F word, actually. I just made that up. You like that? We're dealing with the F word. And the F word is fidelity or faithfulness, however you want to position it. Trust. The ability to trust one another. And I'm going to make a few categorical statements, and then, of course, we'll turn it over to our amazing panel, these remarkable, beautiful, bountifully beloved women from various parts of the United States of America. We have a worldwide audience, so I'm going to tell everybody again where they're from, so you can, if you don't know, you can look it up. We've recently had some people that they emailed from Bhutan. How do you like that? Bhutan. I thought it was fascinating. So I'm going to make some categorical opening statements. And they have to do, as I said, with the F word and about fidelity. So there are three things I want to make clear. Number one, and again, this is my opinion backed up by thousands of years of documented evidence. So I stand on good ground. The real culprit, as it were, if there is one, in a marriage, and we're talking about a marriage between a man and a woman at this point, is oftentimes, more often than not, the man. Men are, all humans are complex beings. Men are even more complex. You hear that? Men, I think, are actually more complex than women. When it comes to the sexual arena, men are unique beings. And there's something about the male that drives him to do things that in logic he wouldn't. That's one statement. The second thing is that without God in the equation, again, this is one of the few times I'm ever going to mention God. Diane, thank God, does mention a lot, as does Lori and Maura. I tend not to. Without God as a foundation in a marriage, then the ability to take what they call take vows or promises, especially when it comes to fidelity, just really is not there. Because why not? Hello, we're just kids together, friends with, what do they call it? Friends with benefits, that kind of thing. I heard that one time a few years ago. I was amazed. Okay. The third point is that even with non-fidelity, there is still the opportunity, again, in a God-based system, for what we call repentance. And it's truly a gift of God, because logically it should not exist. The ability for someone to forgive someone else is truly divine. And so on those three pieces, I'm going to mention something, then turn it over. And I'm not sure it's going to come out as a question. It's going to be more make maybe a statement and ask each one of you to wax eloquent upon the idea and such. I'm going to read something from Proverbs. Now, Proverbs is a book in the Bible. So for those of you who don't know, never heard of the Bible, don't know anything about the Bible, it's a book in the Bible. There are 24 books in the Bible in the what we call the Old Testament, and the Proverbs is one of the books. It's a remarkably powerful, interesting, challenging, and wondrously mind-expanding, heart-expanding book. And in Proverbs 18:22, that's chapter 18, verse 22, it reads in the English the following: "He who has found a wife has found great good and has obtained favor from God." So I'm going to just read it again one more time. Again, we're talking about a man and a woman in marriage. Doesn't mean that has to always be that way. I make that statement as well. Okay? You want to have two men, two women. I'm not even going to talk about that. We're talking about something dealing with two people, in this case, man and woman, and God. So he who has found a wife has found great good and has obtained favor from God. Now, here's where the discussion comes up. Fascinating, nice sentence, right? Good ideas. Listen to how they say this. Notice that it says a person who's found a wife. It didn't say who has found a great wife, a smart wife, a beautiful wife, a rich wife. It didn't say that. It said it was found a wife. By definition, in the Proverbs, and again, Proverbs were written 3,000 years ago. So we're talking about a long time ago. When people were primitive and they didn't know anything, they did know. They knew a lot. They weren't that primitive. So merely a wife, just the ability to have wife, the concept of wife is incorporated with the word good. You hear that? For a man to marry and acquire a wife is the essence of good. That's what the Proverbs say. And this is wisdom that has been able to maintain people for thousands of years, because otherwise the world would be in turmoil if you didn't have at least some track to run on that's like this. Now, obviously, when a woman understands that her role is as a wife is already the idea of goodness, and that's an elevating idea, right? Hello, I'm not just there. And there's a man, there's a woman, and hey, let's get together, kids. This is a very different approach to the process called matrimony, marriage. And again, on the underlying, and then I ask you wonderful ladies to wax eloquent, that there is a spoken and unspoken understanding in the agreement, in the contract, if you were even, that faithfulness must be part and parcel of the relationship. Because without it, it's just two people passing in the night. Doesn't matter how long you've been together. So again, using this idea of wife as goodness, that means that the man has an obligation to do something that goes against his nature. I'm speaking as a man. It's very, very, I don't like using too many verys, difficult to channel and control one's nature, especially in the area called the sexual arena. So with that as our uplifting introduction, what I'd like to do is begin, of course, we have Dr. Diane Medved up in the great Northwest. Here we are in the first week of springtime, so there's no snow on the ground, and birds are chirping, and buds are blossoming, and bees are humming, and such like that. And we have Lori, who is occupying a wonderful log cabin, as it were. It's not a more cabin, as a house on 27 acres in Big Sky, Montana, will be joining us. And fabulous Maura Sweeney down there in Tampa, just by the white sandy beaches of the Gulf of Mexico. So again, we love to begin with Dr. Diane. You're a leadoff batter. So Dr. Diane, would you be kind enough to either speak about what we've just mentioned in the introduction and talk about what when you think about fidelity and faithfulness, because you counsel a lot of couples or individuals, how do you either approach it or talk about it?
You're quite a challenger, Barry, because you mentioned so many different concepts. You mentioned trust, You mentioned what Shlomo Solomon said, women should be considered good for man in marriage. You mentioned man's sexual proclivities, which men and women are definitely different. I mean, you gave me a huge map to cover. If we're going to center on the word fidelity, really, there's no reason to get married unless you want to choose one person to be faithful to give your trust to trust yourself. And so what marriage is choosing, singling out one person to hold separately. The word holy, kadosh, it means to separate apart from. It means to take that person to a different level, to a different status, and to combine with you, if you're the wife, to make something better than either of you. Now, women have generally, very generally speaking, certain tendencies where they are the ones who have the babies, and they are the ones who have a physical relationship with the babies. And so there's that makes women special. And then men have a protective of the family kind of urge. And I think that's what, in a sense, makes them want to spread their seed and have more sexual interest. But it's the two different things together that make a marriage, that make a family. And I think the faithfulness has to be, it's funny, I got out my book, Don't Divorce, and I have a section that I was reading, cheating and lying, sexual and otherwise. And the first sentence says, most infidelity in some way involves sex, imagined or real. That's infidelity. Most infidelity involves imagined or real sex. And I think that women are hurt as much by the idea that their husband could be attracted to other people and break their bond by giving attention that should be focused into the family to someone else. That's, in a sense, stealing from the marriage. And I think that, and I see Lori nodding. I consider her, she's the wife expert. She works with people who have been in those situations. So I defer to you, Lori. But I have to say that trust is a word that's central to marriage. Sexual fidelity, meaning physical, and emotional fidelity is central to marriage. So all these three things, it's funny because faithfulness is the basis of our life. As a Jewish person, I wake up every day and I thank God for giving me my soul back in my body after having dreamt all night, not even knowing where I was, really. So faithfulness is a quality of God. And a way to elevate yourself and your marriage is to put that idea of faithfulness, that you have God's faithfulness in waking you up every day, and you have the ability every day to bring that kind of daily constancy, faith and trust into your relationship. And if you can just do that from your own end, in your own brain, then you don't have to really worry about the other person as much, because it all starts with yourself. Again, I defer to Lori on that, and also to Maura. But I just think that faithfulness is the basis of what marriage is, as opposed to another relationship, as opposed to living with someone, as opposed to friendships, as opposed to friends with benefits, all that stuff. You can have sexual urges, you can have sexual experience. That's not marriage. Marriage is separate, holy, apart from all other relationships. So that's how I start out.
Well, thank you. I wrote down a number of words. I'm going to make a funny. When you mentioned proclivity, it sounds dirty.
It's fine.
No, I mean, it just sounded like some, okay. You mentioned two other F words. We're talking about fidelity, faithfulness, family, and focus. Interesting. There used to be may still be, focus on the family. It used to be a big
That's
show.
organization.
I don't know if it's still around. It's a very good idea. Okay. So I want to break down and talk about a couple of things you said, because they're truly vital, not just important, they're vital. The ability to have sexual relationships while someone's in a marriage, everybody would agree that's infidelity. You added another layer, imagined or real. So the real part is really tough. The imagine part also, I mean, this is, for want of a better term, the great curse of the internet. The internet is a remarkably powerful, wonderful tool. It also has a tremendous curse that is truly affecting, again, mostly men, and that is the pornography. It is so rampant and it is so blatant and so easily accessible that it kills the very being, the soul that you spoke about. I mean, I think we all agree to that. Especially men who are addicted.
Mm-hmm.
And the new piece of it, I don't even like saying it, just but I have to say it out for what it is. I forget the name of you. I'm sure you remember. I'll say it. The second word is fans. FANS.
Only
Yeah.
fans.
Well, okay, fine. I didn't want to say it. Yes, it's a phenomenon. Well, it's a phenomenon that has mushroomed over the past 18 months that is truly grabbing hold of the foundations of society and shaking them and rattling them and taking a buzzsaw to them, because there are people proudly demonstrating for the world what it means to be not just sexual proclivity, but beyond the ability for the mind to understand. And that creates a different kind of world than family or focus. They're not just opposite. They're completely aimed towards destruction. And the people who are practicing it think they're just saying, well, I'm free, you're not. And it's the opposite. It's really the opposite. I want to put another F word in there, because the truly free person is the one who is in a situation that we will call a stable, loving, God-based marriage that looks to other people to be constricting and really is the greatest ability to be expansive. And again, you have to study life and oneself to understand these things. However, you did something I want to mention that you did say. So again, the imagine part is a really interesting piece. Mentioned we'll come back on the second round. The piece that you mentioned I thought was really also very fascinating is that the daily constancy is truly something wonderful. The ability on an everyday basis for husband and wife to interact in such a way that each knows that there is trust, on not even on a high level, just trust. That in itself, like you mentioned many times, Dana, that you like getting, you love getting up in the morning making coffee for Michael. And when he drinks that coffee, he's not drinking coffee. He's smelling and ingesting pure love. No, really, it's pure love. But the point is that it's constancy, the daily constancy of a simple touch, a smile, knowing the other and appreciating. You can't buy it. It can't. And no matter how much you pay those people that do that stuff, you can't buy them. That's the genius of it. And I'll mention another thing in Proverbs after we finish this round. So thank you, Diane. Maura, you're up next as usual are. Then we go to wonderful Lori for cleanup batter. Your thoughts, please, on fidelity, faithfulness, and marriage.
Well, as usual, Barry, you give us this much space to work in. I'll give you some of the thoughts that I had. First thing, when you mentioned the book of Proverbs, I immediately was like, whoa, you said it was so filled with wisdom, which it is. I see Proverbs as not only filled with wisdom, but it's so practical, unbelievably practical. And I could pick it up, put it down, come back, and it could be sometimes years later. I'm like, this is the best book for life lessons and life wisdom from the perspective of follow these things now, and your life will be good later. Don't follow these things now, and your life is not going to be so great. It's so practical. Secondly, when you mention this, and I'm going to repeat it again in case anyone forgot, from 1822, he who has found a wife has found a great thing, or a good and great thing, and obtained favor in God. The moment you read that aloud, I don't know about anybody else listening in today, I felt elevated. I never even see, that's another thing. You read these things over and over again, they mean more. But I felt elevated just hearing those words, that being a wife is a good and great and noble thing. And that as a start versus someone who's a partner, someone who is not part of that covenant. A wife is something on another level. Now, within that, as you said, that statement in itself gives credence, character, a sense of nobility or elevation to the woman. I had a quote that came to mind as a backup for women who often feel overlooked. And I think this thing about infidelity in marriages, I'm not in Lori's line of work as the wife expert. I know she hears so much, nor do I have the book on Don't Divorce. But what I will say from my own perspective is I meet people from every background, and there's something in me where people will always have intimate thoughts and conversations and sharings. And over the course of time, I've actually been so amazed to find out how many couples are not faithful to one another. And it's so sad. The first point being, oh, and I'm going to come back to that secondary quote, but the first being that men, Diane mentioned proclivities. I was going to use this. Men are hunters. They are designed to be hunters. And so they're going to go out and they're going to get something, where the wives or the women tend to be on the other side. Men can be out on the lookout. Now, this is where I want to go to the women. If you are a wife, you're already a good and great thing. You're precious in God's sight. And it is a thing that God has ordained, and it is good. There was a quote, I've used it several times in my presentations for other reasons. Eleanor Roosevelt, married to the 3-time president, who was more than a 2-timing president to her.
That was so wonderfully said.
I'm not the alliterator that you are, but it just came to me. Now, that woman being in the public eye, always having negatives put toward her, could have bought in to a negative sense of self. But this is what she said, and this is so powerful. No one can take away your dignity without your permission. So how to relate this back to the wife? Now, maybe there are men out there that are going and looking or making comments. It used to be even on TV. Oh, did you see that girl in the bathing suit? Oh, she's pretty hot. Those kinds of words can so demean and diminish the value of a wife. But I would say to any wife, any woman listening today, only you can give someone else permission to take away your dignity. And the fact that you continue to choose to carry it and walk in it keeps you elevated. Even if there's something going on where there's some of this, you stay there and a wise man will return. I have to add some other thing I want to add to today. Whoever's listening, whoever needs to hear this, I have been around men who have cried. I could cry when I think about it, for having gotten involved in affairs. And sometimes I was like, why are you telling me? And the answer was, well, I didn't think you would judge me, which is true. That sometimes men do things that are so foolish because they don't answer, let's say, to the higher self, the higher nature within themselves, and they go a-hunting. They're not reading Proverbs and they're not remembering Proverbs when they're out doing their thing. But I'll tell you something, Barry, you mentioned the word redemption. Oh my gosh, have I not seen marriages in my like, what can I say, Mike? The circuit of people that I know that have gone by the wayside and got put together again through forgiveness, redemption, and really by the grace of God. So if there's anything that I could contribute to today's conversation, it is for any wife to remember you're a woman of value and dignity, and that there is a place for moving back in to wisdom and chosen fidelity. And there is a great calling for men who live that way and elevate their wives. Everyone benefits from that. And then there is something on the inside that tends to fill a hole where the hunter doesn't feel like he needs to go somewhere else.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Maura. I'm going to make mention of a few words that you use that are truly powerful and necessary to reiterate. One of them is covenant. And we've discussed this on these podcasts a number of times. And a covenantal relationship is far more than, gee, let's get married and such. Mm-hmm. It is both people recognizing that we have a higher calling. Let's call it God, so that there's three partners in a marriage. There's a man, a woman, and God. And that we answer to something in a higher calling. It's not just that the person can say, well, I was an idiot because I cheated on my wife. Well, you could say, I was an idiot because I cheated on God. In other words, when there's recognition of something beyond oneself, oops, it's not just that, well, God's watching, which he or she is. It's the ability to make sure that the covenant, which was between three, is not shattered. You also use the word wisdom and woman of value, which I'm going to talk about when I'm my turn, and I'm going to talk about woman of valor. And Diane is already laughing and smiling because that's the last chapter in Proverbs. We'll talk about that when I speak. I want to mention something. You talked about the idea of the man on the hunt. And it's funny because in nature, in the wild, it tends to be true, except in one interesting case, which is the king of beasts. The man is the laziest. The male lion is the laziest of animals. He sleeps somewhere, they say, between 17 and 22 hours a day. And it's the lioness that does the hunting and brings the food. I have no idea why or anything. I'm just mentioning that, I've been to Kruger National Park in South Africa, and it's just so fascinating to be around and to see you don't get close. You have to still use binoculars, but you're close enough to watch for time and see that this male lion is majestic, granted, and moves like they know that who they are. They don't do the hunting. The woman does, the lioness. It's and it's of course a group of lions are called the pride, right? So it's the ultimate pride, right? I won't go to work, you go to work. Okay, we won't go there. But the point that you brought about Eleanor Roosevelt and or Jackie Onassis, they didn't let the situation determine them. I think that's what you're saying here. And the beauty and the genius of Proverbs is that it imparts wisdom and practical knowledge, as you said. The ability for a husband and wife to study anything together. Anything. I mean, it could be, okay, I'm going to be tongue-in-cheek, could be Freud, although that probably won't work very well. However, anything that in what we'll call wisdom literature, which generally speaking is biblical, that when a husband and wife when they can learn together and discuss together, creates a different aura and a different level of intimacy. Mm-hmm. Because let's be blunt, intimacy is really what every man wants. Oftentimes it's seen as in a sexual arena. However, intimacy, the love, my wife smiles at me. I can tell you, it's so powerful. Making me dinner and lunch and such, I crave it. But what I crave is when she smiles. If she laughs, whew, She has a special laugh. That's why. Okay. So thank you so much, Maura. That was wonderful. Fabulous Lori, you are on mute. So we need to unmute. Oh, there she be.
There's a
So
lot of commotion here. So I was like,
yeah. Oh, okay. That's good.
Hold
So
on.
Lori is usually in Southern California. Right now, she's in Big Sky, Montana, celebrating springtime. And Lori herself is an example of everything we've talked about. And if she wants to speak about it, that's great. Or if not, you can use some of the people you deal with as examples. And because fidelity or infidelity is it rips the soul.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lori, please speak to us about fidelity, faithfulness, and what it means in a marriage.
So I was taking notes, and just you talking changed me about saying what I wanted to say. I think I do believe there's two types of cheaters. I believe there's a cheater who's always been a cheater, and they jump into a marriage, but they're not really attached, and they will seek comfort elsewhere because they believe they deserve it. And there's something missing inside of them that by seeing another woman, it goes in here. And it sits there for a little while till it falls away, because nothing will work until they do the work on healing themselves. So they go out searching. Then there's the other type of cheater who never will say to everyone, I would never cheat. And the wife is convinced he will never cheat. We're like the token couple in the neighborhood. Everyone wants to be us. And then one day his dad dies, and maybe his dad was a cheater, or something else traumatic happens, and he feels hopeless. And he can't go to his wife and talk about how sad he is because he doesn't want to let her down. And he doesn't feel safe because if he goes and tells her, I'm having trouble, I don't know what to do, she will start barking commands or make him feel bad. So he goes out and he's wandering the earth, and it could be at Target when some lady goes, oh, I like your tie. And he's like, what? And that's it. That's how it starts. And he's like, other women are nice to me. And he's got his antenna up and he starts seeking. Must be someone else out there for me. And it happens, and they find it. And they find that in my opinion, most of my clients' husbands have found the scum of the earth. Like, they're the devil and they've gone down. And I advise them that they don't pick up, they pick down, because no good woman like me or you guys, if a man approached me and was wanting to hook up with me, I've got God and I got a really good thing going. I would never break that. Not everyone's like that. And the people that choose to jump into something like that, ooh, this married man might be getting divorced, or he's getting divorced and he wants to be with me. Ooh, I'm special. That person who goes, ooh, I'm special, didn't have a good childhood. No one was in her life telling her she's good enough to get a man who is a righteous, good man to be with. And I believe that's what we adults should be educating our children on, because I can see right through when a girl is dating a boy and his father. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about is when a man cheats, it has very little to do with the wife, unless the wife has said to the husband, which happens, I don't want to have sex with you because I'm mad at you. No. Or maybe he cheated 10 years earlier and she's mad about it, but she never talked to him. And so he's so desperate to connect to somebody, he goes seeking it because he doesn't know how to tell his wife he's sad and lonely, which is really sad. But what couple things I want to say is, without a woman, men are lost, in my opinion. Because when a woman dies, a man will remarry right away. When a man dies, a woman gathers her girlfriends and goes to India on a vacation. That's the difference of all of us. And I love the story in the Bible about Adam and Eve, right? Because that temptation is always out there, right? And if you have any kind of antenna up, you'll find it. The scum is out there. It will find you. The snake will be there going, bite the apple. It'll be okay. This apple's really good. You deserve it, right? And when she bites the apple, everything good goes away. And what's interesting about the Bible verse with Adam and Eve is Adam walks with Eve. He doesn't stay in the beautiful garden. He's forced to leave as well, which is what marriage is. So when
Mm.
someone cheats, the other person feels the pain.
Mm.
So that's it. I think I'm done talking.
Okay, let's unpack a few things here. By the way, it was very graphic what you said about you don't pick up and go higher, you pick down. And as you said, okay, I'm going to just repeat your words, the scum of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Sorry.
I never even thought of it like that. It seems to resonate. I will mention something because you know how much I enjoy words and such and acronyms and such. So I've been involved with this word cheater for a long time. You say, what? Because the same letters that spell cheater are the words teacher. Just move the letters around. Cheater, teacher.
Wow.
And part of it was that you mentioned, Lori, is that the person never worked with himself or herself. He's sad and lonely, never talked to himself. He's feeling odd. Now the professional cheater, they're always going to be there. A cheater who was not able to communicate to his partner, in this case, the man to the woman, she never got into the role of teacher and he never got into the role of teacher. Same letters. And when you don't teach yourself or your children, you're cheating. You're cheating them of the opportunity to say, well, look what happens in life. Sadness, difficulties, depression. People lose jobs. I mean, this is a big thing in the world, right? Oftentimes people lose jobs or they can lose the house. Losing is a terrible, horrible thing because people think of it as negative. Sometimes, and we've seen it all, everybody's seen this, it can be the greatest blessing because we have this other thing called losing weight. You know, it's funny. I have a friend who has taught me, he's taught thousands of people, by the way, it's very interesting. They come to him for weight loss. And he says, if you think like that, you can't work with me. We never talk about losing weight. You want to change your persona and you want to look different and feel better and such, I'll work with you. You want to change your image? Great. Because nobody likes losing. You want to be a winner? Okay. By the way, this goes to what you talked to us, Laurie, about we don't say but. And yes. And I'm really careful these days. Thank you about this. So the ability to turn a cheater into a teacher to oneself is a very high level because otherwise what's going to happen is right. He's going to pick up scum because all it takes is a fluttering of the eyebrows as you did and somebody a listening ear for a little bit and right away he's hooked for what? And this potential for true love gets shattered. Now, again,
What can I add something?
Yeah.
What I think is so interesting is when a woman goes, oh, but he's getting divorced from his wife. And then he comes with her and he's got 4 kids, but he doesn't see his kids and he doesn't see his wife. And she thinks he's a good guy. And it's like, I talk to women who now are married to someone for maybe 8 years, but his ex-wife and him are married for 27. And he's got 5 kids. Does he see them? No, they won't talk to him. Oh, and now this guy leaves her. That's why I'm talking to her. And it's like, did you not see that pattern? Why would you ever get married to a man who left a woman and her children? Like, it's not so. Who does that? Sorry, I'm done.
No, this is beautiful because that is the cheater. He never taught himself. He's not a teacher. He's a cheater. Right. I want to love this man who abandons his children. Why would anybody do that? That's not a good person, right? And yet it's so difficult to see these things. So again, we're talking about faithfulness, fidelity, and we only have a few more minutes. I'm going to mention something, then we'll do a quick round. And it's I think it's the first time we've done this in years. So you mentioned a woman of value, Maura. So in the final chapter of Proverbs, And it's the 31st chapter, begins with the 10th sentence and goes to the end, 10 to, I think, 31, 32. It's a very famous chapter, and it begins with the following: a woman of valor, VALOR, who can find? Her worth is more than pearls or rubies. And it goes on and it waxes eloquent. So I mention it for three reasons. Number one, because it's eloquent. Number two, because, as Diane will affirm, Jewish men have been singing this paean, this poem, to their wives on Friday night, the beginning of the Sabbath, for 3,000 years. In other words, you really want to have a relationship in a wonderful home. You have something called the Sabbath, which creates an aura unto itself and has rituals and such. And one of the rituals is that the husband singing to the wife and recognizing who she is. Am I right, Diane?
Absolutely. That's right.
Women of valor, and goes on, talks about all of the values that this remarkable being called your wife brings to you. So that by definition, if you're not a complete idiot and you're using and saying all these words of praise, and you look and you realize, wow, that's who you are. And the third point is, by practicing, as you mentioned, Diane, and as you said, Maura, on a practical basis, practicing, which practical is the same word, on a daily basis, the ability to infuse your situation with love, with trust, in any way that's possible. Again, whether it's a smile, whether it's a wink, it's a nod, it's a gentle touch, it's going out to a restaurant like I do sometimes for business and making sure that I bring something back for my wife, or that I at least tell her, and she says, would you like something? And I neglect to do it sometimes. She says, hello. Okay. I forgot. The point is that the F word is really a powerful, wonderful word. F, faith, fidelity, family, focus. And again, I want to say, gone through our time, I want to say personally how much I appreciate each one of you, your insights and such, and what you have shared here today, because I think that this particular show, every one we do, I think is wonderful. This particular, I was really looking forward to, another F word, because I think it will bring a lot of benefit to many people. There is a mechanism to integrate one's being with husband and wife, and recognizing that men are the idiots. Okay, I'm speaking it out in the sense that they tend to roam more so than women when it comes to being unfaithful. And recognizing that in oneself and grabbing oneself by the collar, and recognizing that if there are three entities in the relationship, in the covenantal relationship, the husband, the wife, and the creator, and that you're really cheating God at the same time, and therefore you should feel remorse about that, and recognizing that redemption is there because it's God, and that your wife also will most likely redeem you. She will acknowledge that you were a jerk. Okay. Now, if she's a smart person, she'll file it away, forgive you, and not bring it up again. If she's not, she'll club you for the rest of your life. You can just shut up. Either way, it's far better than dealing with scum and going out into the world and cheating on oneself, because that's really what you're doing, right? You're ruining your own being. So on this high note, I trust that this was a great and glorious event for all of us. Lori, how long are you going to be up in Montana?
I had it muted just in case. I'm here till Sunday.
Oh, very nice. Okay. And Maura, you having wonderful spring weather?
We were, and now today it's 89. So I think we slipped into Florida summer before we knew it.
Okay. So your daughter's not coming down to visit you soon.
You know, She and our son-in-law were down just about a week ago, and they got some good weather for people that love living in cold. But now
Okay.
summer is here.
And Dr. Diane, it's fabulous and beautiful up in the great Northwest.
Every day is a fabulous and beautiful day in the Great Northwest.
Yes.
We do have cherry blossoms, and it's beautiful. I went to the quad at the University of Washington that have the cherry trees that were donated by Japan, and it's just as gorgeous as walking around in Washington, D.C.
Wow. So cool.
Outstanding. Okay. So again, for everybody watching, we appreciate that you're here. We appreciate your comments. And we bring to you our blessing, which is go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Ready, kids, for a hug? 1, 2, 3. Make it a great one. Bye, everybody. Welcome to Marriage with Joy, which is the most open discussion on the internet about the positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant aspects of living in harmony with matrimony. Marriage with Joy unabashedly discusses the most interesting questions raised by listeners. Our informed and informative panel addresses issues with thought, wit, and aplomb. Voted best of the web 2 years running.